is made accountable for the crimes and atrocities committed in Tigray. The president also said that the Eritrean regime is a destabilizing element in the region politics and is meddling in economic as well as security issues in Ethiopia, further exacerbating the ongoing conflict. Winta Kidana has more on that.
In a recent interview with Tigray television, President Debretsion has said that the international community should take decisive action to ensure that the Eritrean government is held accountable for atrocities it has committed in Tigray and Eritrea, saying that the Eritrean government's desire for instability in the region has taken it as far as Yemen, Sudan, and Somalia.
This is a headache for the Eritrean government. It can only be at ease when there is war and destruction. The Eritrean government has been a force of destruction not only in its own country but in the whole region.
ብዙ ሁከት ብዙ ችግር ብዙ ጉዳት ለኤርትራም ለቀጠናም ያደረሰ ኃይል ነው።
The president also said that the Eritrean government has been meddling in Ethiopia's internal affairs with Eritrean personnel operating within Ethiopia's security apparatus and wielding untold influence in the country's economic activities.
በቁልፍ ጉዳዮች ሲባል በሰላምና በጦርነት ወሳኝ ጉዳይ ላይ
When I say key matters, I mean decisive issues concerning war and peace. They also have significant say in the country's economy. The Eritrean government, both directly and indirectly, influences key institutions such as the Ethiopian National Defense Force and National Intelligence. The Eritrean government is partaking in contraband and other unlawful activities to accumulate foreign currency.
በንግድና በኮንትሮባንድ ደረጃም በከፍተኛ ደረጃ የኤርትራ እጅ ያለበት ነው።
The president also emphasized that the responsibility of the Eritrean people to ensure justice is served for the many atrocities committed on the people of Eritrea and Tigray.
ከሁሉም በላይ የኤርትራ ሕዝብ ጉዳይ ነው።
Above all, this is an issue of the Eritrean people. The Eritrean government has actively been working to impoverish the Eritrean people. So, it should be the Eritrean people that play a central role in ensuring that these authorities are held accountable. But the international community too has a role to play in light of this force's role in the destabilization of the region.
ሁሉም የራሱ እርምጃም መውሰድ ይጠበቅበታል።
The president acknowledged sanctions on the Eritrean government by the United States as a positive development, but said more needed to be done to end atrocities being committed in Tigray and other parts of Ethiopia.
አሁን ደግሞ ያው ጄኖሳይድ ተገለጸው። ጄኖሳይድ ፈጽሟል ብቻ ሳይሆን የፈጸመም
The international community has to take punitive measure to halt the genocide in Tigray. It should also work to ensure accountability for atrocities committed in Tigray and other parts of Ethiopia by these forces.
የዓለም ህብረተሰብ ብቻውን እኛም ቢሆን ተጠያቂ እናደርገዋለን።
The government of Tigray has on multiple occasions stated that the return of status quo ante was an important prerequisite to initiate a negotiation process.
In an interview with state broadcasting ETV on Thursday, Afar state president has said that his government is actively working to obstruct aid coming into Tigray. This is just one of multiple statements by Ethiopian authorities that have demonstrated the genocidal intent of the ongoing conflict. We have more on that. Since the start of the conflict 15 months ago, Ethiopian forces and their allies from Eritrea have taken part in the deliberate obstruction of aid coming into Tigray, as troops on the ground have taken part in the deliberate destruction of food items and farming equipments across the region. In addition to the blockade on banking services and the withhold of state budget, the UN estimates that over 80% of the population in Tigray is food insecure and in need of urgent food assistance. Now, the president of Afar Regional State, Awal Arba, in an interview with the state media EBC, has said that his forces are working to ensure no humanitarian aid will reach the people of Tigray. In a parliamentary address earlier this week, Abiy Ahmed had said that his forces are working closely with the Afar state to ensure a common objective.
አፋርን በሚመለከት የፌደራል መንግስት ከአፋር ክልል መንግስት ጋር በከፍተኛ ቅርበት ነው የሚሰራው። በከፍተኛ ቅርበት በሁሉም አሁን ባሉት ነገሮች በየሚዲያው የሚባለውን አቃለው ግን እንደዛ አይደለም በቅርበት የሥራ ክፍፍል አድርገን የምንሰራው ማንኛውም የአፋር ጥቃት የኢትዮጵያ ጥቃት ነው የአማራ ጥቃት የኢትዮጵያ ጥቃት ነው
The government of Tigray had on multiple occasions issued a statement saying violence was being instigated by Afar regional forces and troops from Eritrea to hamper the delivery of much-needed aid into the region. The head for the Bureau of Social Affairs has said that a report by his bureau has found that close to half of the population in Tigray may perish if the siege continues just over a month. Much of the population in Tigray is in dire need of food assistance and medical care as the Ethiopian government maintains an all-encompassing siege on Tigray that has blocked off all food aid and medical supplies coming into the region. Wintakidana.
The head of Tigray's Bureau of Social Affairs, Mulgeta Debalkao, says research conducted by the office indicated that close to half of the population in Tigray could perish due to the ongoing siege that has blocked off all food items and medical supplies coming into the region for close to 7 months now.
As the siege has continued to tighten, the concerns are also increased. We are at the edge of extinction. According to the research, half the population in Tigray will perish should the siege continue till April 9. Our bureau is receiving almost daily reports of suicide, while many more are dying due to lack of medication. Government employees especially are in a difficult situation. The stress of not being able to provide basic for their household is leading to a high rate of suicide. This is also true in IDP camps.
The bureau head also said that urban areas have been more affected by the ongoing siege owing to the blockade of banking services and the inflow of internally displaced persons.
Urban areas have been more severely affected by than rural areas. Why? This is largely due to a high number of IDPs who have been displaced from different parts of the region in the hope of finding security. That's why the condition in Mekelle is worse than most of the cities in Tigray, because the number of IDPs and government employees is unmatched in other cities across the state.
Mulgeta also said that the blockade has severely affected communities in western Tigray and bordering areas, saying their voices remain to be heard by hostile forces.
Our brothers in Western Tigray have been blocked off from all basic services. They have been put in a cave where no one can hear them. No aid organizations are allowed to pass through these areas. Half of the population in Europe is also blocked. This area is still under the control of Eritrean forces. The same is true for the people in Zalambesa. They have become voiceless due to the ongoing siege.
Much of the population in Tigray is in dire need of food assistance and medical care as the Ethiopian government maintains an all-encompassing siege on Tigray that has blocked off all food aid and medical supplies into the region.
Asenna Television, an Eritrean broadcasting station, has uncovered a video of showing Ethiopian and Eritrean forces leading a joint military operation days after the breakout of the war in Tigray in November of 2020. The Ethiopian government had denied the presence of Eritrean troops despite the multiple confirmed reports of Eritrean troops taking part in gruesome human rights violations across the state. Abel Tsagabo has the details.
Asenna Television, an Eritrean broadcasting station, has uncovered a video showing Ethiopian and Eritrean forces leading a joint military operation on the highway connecting Mekelle and Abiy Adi in Tembin, days after the onset of the war in November of 2020. Although late, the Ethiopian government had admitted the presence of Eritrean forces in Tigray in March, 4 months after the start of the conflict, but the Ethiopian Prime Minister said the forces had joined in the conflict in an effort to protect their national interests and were not working in coordination with the Ethiopian government. This video, on the other hand, shows Ethiopian and Eritrean commanders leading a joint military operation in Tigray at the outset of the conflict. But this is not the first clear evidence of military cooperation between Ethiopian and Eritrean forces in the conflict in Tigray. A video broadcast on Amhara state media last year had shown Eritrean commanders training Amhara militia in western Tigray. Eritrean forces are responsible for gruesome human rights violations since the start of the conflict. Overwhelming evidence has indicated the participation of Eritrean troops in massacre, the deliberate destruction of health facilities, the obstruction of aid, and the use of sexual violence as a weapon of war. In an article published last month, President Debretsion had said that the withdrawal of Eritrean forces and the reinstatement of status quo ante would be a prerequisite to start negotiations.
A study by Tigray's Bureau of Health has found that Ethiopian forces have conducted 62 airstrikes since June of 2021, killing over 380 civilians and injuring over 750. This is the most comprehensive data on airstrikes in the region, with comprehensive communications blackout imposed on the region, making it impossible to track instances of airstrikes. There's a report on that. Data from Tigray's Bureau of Health has revealed that the Ethiopian government has undertaken 62 airstrikes between October of 2021 and February 2022, killing over 380 civilians and injuring over 750. This is the most comprehensive data on airstrikes in the region since the start of the conflict in 2020 that has seen a comprehensive communications blackout imposed on the region, making it impossible to track instances of airstrikes. In an article published by Hagos Godefai on the media platform Divix, said that the attack predominantly targeted civilian installations with 60 residential houses, 7 marketplaces, 4 schools, 3 hospitals, 2 refugee camps, and a miling house being some of the many targets. The article highlighted that the Ethiopian government had attacked Tigray's capital Mekelle 13 times since October, killing and injuring several. The deadliest airstrike took place in a marketplace in Togoga, just 60 kilometers from the capital, that killed 64 civilians and injured scores more. Dr. Hagos added that 78% of health facilities in Tigray have been completely destroyed due to a deliberate and systematic attack on its infrastructures, emphasizing that victims of airstrikes are being hauled into a health system already on the brink. In an interview with Tigray TV last year, Dr. Hagos had described the extent of the damage on the health system.
As I was trying to mention earlier, we had around 312 ambulances. They were looted. They took it to Asmara and to Amhara at the same time. Now we have only 50 up to 60 ambulances, but there is no fuel. So we are not like supporting laboring mother. Still mothers are dying at home while giving birth. This is really, we are in a bad situation, by the way. I'm telling you. If we are not like supporting our people, we don't have like a system. I have been in the system for almost 20 years. 10 years as a bureau head. I'm telling you, this is the worst time.
Dr. Hagos also discussed the condition of health workers in Tigray. According to data from Tigray Bureau of Health, 37 health professionals had been killed, 78 injured, while over 4,000 were either internally displaced or were seeking refuge in neighboring Sudan. But Dr. Hagos says health professionals have remained committed as they continue to provide service despite not having received a salary for over 8 months.
Even though the health workforces are like committed enough to support, since they don't have any furniture, since they don't have any medical equipment and supply in their health facilities, our health workforces are like really in deep frustration. In terms of like health workforce, it's not only, the salary is not only paid for 2 months only, by the way, for 3 months. Some of them more than that. But there is no any option. It's not only that, by the way. Some of them have cash on the bank. They have account. They are not allowed to take money from the bank because there is no cash in Tigray. So a lot of sufferings, by the way. But we are still, they are committed enough to support the system. They are committed enough to support the people of Tigray. But they are like, rather than the money, the salary, they are thinking about their communities, about the people who are like dying of hunger. So we are calling the international community to allow humanitarian aid to Tigray and to give attention to the people of Tigray.
The World Health Organization says that there are close to 4 million people in Tigray in need of medical assistance as the Ethiopian government maintains an all-encompassing siege on Tigray that has blocked off all medical supplies and food aid. Tigray External Affairs Office issued a statement on Thursday regarding the condition of religious and cultural heritage in Tigray. The office also said that the government of Tigray has established a special committee to investigate and document looted artifacts to ensure that the items are returned to their rightful owners. Abel Tsigabu has more on that.
Tigray External Affairs Office has issued a statement on Thursday discussing the status of heritage sites in Tigray. The statement stated that Tigray is home to one of the oldest civilizations in Africa and possesses rich cultural and historical sites, including Al-Najashi, which is the second oldest mosque in the world. The statement said that these cultural and historical sites were deliberately and systematically targeted by allied Ethiopian and Eritrean forces, with forces taking part in the vandalism and destruction of religious and cultural relics. The statement also said that allied forces have destroyed places of worship and damaged monasteries that have survived for centuries, including the killing of hundreds of priests, deacons, and other religious leaders. The Al-Najashi mosque has faced the same fate with the deliberate targeting of the mosque through heavy artillery. The statement says the systematic looting and destruction of Tigray heritage was parcel of the border campaign by the Ethiopian government to exterminate the people of Tigray from the face of the earth. The statement says that the people and government of Tigray are very grateful for those who have tirelessly worked to remove stolen objects, including historic manuscripts from eBay, and that the government of Tigray believes it's imperative that those stolen artifacts be returned to their rightful owner. The office says that the government of Tigray has established a special committee to facilitate the repatriation of looted artifacts and investigate and document looted artifacts, and working in collaboration with all concerned bodies, including UNESCO, International Council of Museums, the World Tourism Organization, and Interpol, as it seeks to return any and all stolen artifacts.
The UN says the obstruction of humanitarian aid coming into Tigray has continued with no aid trucks being able to reach Tigray since mid-December. OCHA also said that even if humanitarian aid were able to reach Tigray the withholding of basic services such as banking and lack of access of fuel would make it impossible to distribute aid to the millions in need. Aragawi Gabra Mikhail reports.
UN spokesperson Stephen Dujarric said convoys carrying humanitarian aid have not been able to reach Tigray since mid-December, adding that humanitarian partners are being forced to scale back operations due to the ongoing siege that has blocked off access to fuel and banking services.
In the Tigray region itself, we, along with our humanitarian partners, are continuing to scale back operations due to lack of supplies, lack of fuel, lack of cash. No relief convoys have reached Tigray since mid-December, and we are now at the end of February.
The spokesperson highlighted that while some humanitarian organizations were able to airlift basic medical supplies into the region, the quantity is insufficient to address the humanitarian emergency on the ground.
During the past week, we, along with our partners, have managed to airlift some 47 metric tons of medical supplies to Tigray, including antibiotics, medicines for malaria and diabetes. But as you know, airlifts cannot replace truck convoys in terms of volume and cost. However, lack of fuel remains a major setback in Tigray as an obstacle for dispatching supplies to health facilities throughout the region.
UN estimates indicate that over 80% of the population in Tigray is food insecure, while close to 4 million people are not able to access medical care due to the blockade that has discontinued all basic services into the region, including food aid and medical supplies.
Our reporters visited an IDP camp in Shararo, where they spoke with IDPs from Western Tigray that say they were displaced after a home-to-home raid by Fano Vigilante group, a group that has played a central role in the ethnic cleansing campaign in Tigray. Among them was a mother named Rigba, who had to attempt an escape with her 12-day son, Tsinat. Kabrom has more on that.
Rigba Gabar and her son Tsinat have been sheltered in an IDP camp in Shararo, northwestern Tigray, for over a year now. Rigba says she was pregnant with Tsinat, meaning strength, when an Amhara vigilant group started to attack innocent Tigrayans in Humara, western Tigray, forcing her and her son, just 12 days old at a time, to run to save their lives.
They
were saying we don't want Tigrayans here. We are here to kill them all. We don't want to see them here. No one that speaks Tigrinya should be left there. All we could do is cry. It was a rainy season, so it was pouring outside. I had to travel on foot for 6 days in the wilderness while still breastfeeding. I was also bleeding from having just given birth.
Rigba says her husband was forcibly abducted by Eritrean forces who had managed to catch up with them as they were preparing to cross the Takaza River.
They caught us right after we arrived at the Takaza and imprisoned us. On the third day, they separated the men and the women. There was 35 of us there, including children. They took all 17 men. We haven't seen them since. We have no idea where they may have taken them.
The all-encompassing siege on Tigray that has blocked off all essential items, including food aid and medical supplies, has meant that millions like Rigba, who are sheltered in IDP camps across the state, are not able to access desperately needed aid.
We have not been able to access any humanitarian assistance, including food aid, for months now. It was the residents of Shararo who used to support us, but they are unable to continue to do so now.
An ethnic cleansing campaign led by Amhara forces in western Tigray has displaced over 1 million Tigrayans. The horrid living condition of the IDPs has been further exasperated as the Ethiopian government maintains an all-encompassing siege on Tigray that has blocked off food aid and medical supplies coming into the region.